Midlife sneaks up on you, doesn't it? One day you're in your 20s, thinking 40 is ancient, and the next, well, here you are, Googling phrases like, why does everything hurt when I wake up? But midlife isn't just about the physical aches or the milestones. It's also about the things that no one really talks about. The quiet battles, surprising joys, the stuff that shapes you in ways you didn't see coming. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the unspoken realities of midlife. Ready? Let's dive in. So here's the first reality that no one tells you about. By the time you hit midlife, you're carrying invisible losses. Friendships that have faded, dreams you quietly let go of, people that you've loved and lost. Midlife isn't just about what you gain, it's also about what you've outgrown or been forced to leave behind. And yet, we rarely talk about how much it hurts to outgrow something. The career that you once dreamed of that no longer fits. The friendship that faded, even though neither of you really did anything wrong. These losses aren't loud. They're quiet, like background music. You didn't realize was playing until it stopped. Then, let's talk about loneliness. Not the kind where you don't have people around, but the kind when you're surrounded by others and still feel unseen. In midlife, everyone's busy with their own lives. Kids, careers, caregiving. Suddenly, those effortless connections from your younger years, well, they take work now. You find yourself craving deeper conversations, but realizing they're harder to come by. And sometimes, you miss the simplicity of just hanging out without a plan at all. Now here's the thing. Loneliness in midlife doesn't mean that you've failed socially. It's a sign that you're longing for something richer. And that's a good thing. It's an invitation to reconnect, even if it feels vulnerable. Now this one's heavy. Who are you now? Midlife is when you realize that so much of your identity was tied to what you did, not who you are. Maybe you've been the career person or the parent, the fixer, the caretaker. But what happens when those roles shift? Or when you realize they don't define you the way they used to? Midlife is about peeling back those layers and asking, if I'm not those things, then who am I? And yes, it's terrifying, but it's also freeing. It's a chance to rediscover what lights you up and to separate you from the labels that you've been given. Time in midlife is weird. On one hand, you feel like there's so much left to do, and on the other, you realize there's less time ahead than there is behind. And that realization can mess with your head. Suddenly, you feel this urgency, not to do everything, but to do what matters. And sometimes you're not even sure what that is. So you start asking yourself, am I spending my time the right way? But then comes the guilt for even asking that. But here's the truth. It's okay to feel conflicted about time. Use it to remind yourself to focus on the stuff that feeds your soul, not just your calendar and others' expectations. But it's not all heavy. I promise you that. Midlife also brings these little joys that no one talks about. Like the way you finally stop caring so much about what other people think, or how you start appreciating the simple things. A good cup of coffee, the sound of birds in the morning, or a conversation that doesn't revolve around small talk. You also learn to be kinder to yourself, to let go of perfection, and to see beauty in the imperfections that you once obsessed over. Midlife teaches you that it's the little things, the ones that you used to take for granted, that actually make life worth living. And the thing is, we don't talk about these realities nearly enough. And because of that, so many of us feel like we're going through them alone. But you're not alone. Whether it's grief, loneliness, identity shifts, or those tiny moments of joy, these are all part of the midlife experience. So we have to change the narrative. Let's make midlife less about surviving a crisis and more about owning the messy, beautiful, complex truths of it all. Midlife is a paradox. It's heavy and light, confusing and clarifying, painful and joyful. It's a reminder that life isn't about one big epiphany. It's about showing up every single day, even when it's messy. Actually, especially when it's messy. So what's been your unspoken reality in midlife? Share it in the comments, because the more we talk about this, the less alone we'll all feel. And that's the magic of connection.